Please be seated. We come to our yearly conversation about dear old Thomas. Every single year on the Sunday after Easter, we have an opportunity to hear the story of doubting Thomas. Now, I just misspoke, to be clear. I said the Sunday after Easter, because we're not after Easter, actually. We are still in Easter, in this long season of Easter where we are invited to delight in the resurrection. But how does our lectionary invite us to do that? By hearing the story of Thomas. Now, I have to get to know you all a bit, and that's going to take us some time. So I'm going to make some assumptions that may or may not be right. But generally, Christians, in my experience, have not had many opportunities to doubt in a holy way, to question in a holy way, to examine in a holy way. Our practices in the church, generally, this is very generally speaking, often come with a very prescriptive form of faith. This happened and you believe X, Y, and Z. Doubt gets put up as this bad thing for us to avoid, for us to stay away from. Thomas doesn't look great in this story, right? The other disciples get to go see the risen Christ. They see proof. Thomas is not there. And when the disciples come and tell him, he says, no, I want to see for myself. And when he does, we get this sort of verbiage that perhaps it would be better for him to believe without seeing. And I wonder for how many of us that internalized message to believe without seeing, to believe without question, has been part of our inherited faith. In fact, throughout Christianity, that's been a pretty important part of how we've kept the church alive. We have taught people what to believe and just marched on forward. But in the season of Easter that we are in the season of resurrection, we could have just skipped over Thomas altogether. But instead, year after year, we have a chance to sit with doubt. Holy doubt, holy questioning. Thomas, in many ways, is the one I want as my patron saint. I actually think he should be the patron saint of younger siblings, the one who feels just kind of left out, but I want to be a part of it. The one who wants to discover on their own. I, in my upbringing, had a very unique introduction to the church, one that not many people get to experience. Many of us grow up being told this is what our family believes and here's the church we go to, and you internalize that over and over and over. I grew up in a house where we didn't go to church at first. It wasn't a big part of our practice when I was very young. I should say, I'm talking about Alaska. I grew up in Alaska, so, everything's a little different there. We do things our own way. We'll talk more about that. But when I was about 5, my folks started exploring their spirituality. My mom went to the Catholic church that she'd been raised in. My dad went to the Jewish temple in Anchorage. The faith that his own father had practiced, he hadn't quite been raised in it. So all of a sudden, we have a household going to temple and going to church. And my sister and me, my sister's here today, you get to meet her, which is a fun treat. But my sister and I were invited, pushed by our folks. Not that we had to believe something about Jesus or Moses or that, but that we had to engage our spiritual practice. Somehow, some way, I'm not sure if they used the word spiritual practice with me when I was 5, but along those lines, that we were meant to develop our faith, but not in a prescriptive way. So we went to church. We went to temple. I asked to be baptized when I was 7. My sister said, this is not for me. And she went to the temple, and she's Jewish. And now, for myself as a parent of my 3 tiny humans who are running around this place, I know the extraordinary task that it was to say, we will let you choose. We will let you question. We will let you take a different path. Ultimately, that path has led me to one of the deepest expressions of faith that many can take in Christianity, because I was allowed to question, because I was allowed to doubt, because I was allowed to choose. And the risk of that is that we won't choose it, that we'll do something else, that we'll find a different way to God, or worse yet, not be with God at all. But God is so much bigger than any of the ways we can prescribe them. God, even in this story where Jesus is coming and saying, you could believe without seeing, does not deny Thomas his proof, does not deny Thomas his journey. Our doubt, our questioning is sanctified. It is an invitation to go deeper. Not that it might rattle our faith loose, but it might help us know it better. And it might become deeper and broader. I am coming to you as your interim rector, as a new thing in your community. And it is a time for questions, holy questions, good questions, questions about who we are and who God is calling us to be, questions about how the Spirit shows up in this place and in our lives, questions about why we do what we do and why we might do something else. It is a season for us to lean in to the questions that God is putting before us. Not to shy away out of fear of what they might change, but to hold the holy hope of what they might reveal and unfold. Thomas is a beacon for us in this season of doubt, in this season of questioning, in this season of exploration. Our journeys towards faith, our journeys towards God, are ones that are unknown. We are each paving and walking our new and own path. God walks alongside us, and we walk alongside each other. May we question together and come to know God more deeply and more fully in what is revealed there. Amen.